Hello, hello, and good morning. It is Thursday, April 2nd. Wow, Thursday, yes. Thursday, April 2nd. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. I'm like amazed every day that we're plowing through this year already, Ted. We're done with the first quarter. Like that just happened fast. That escalated quickly in the Trump era.
Fascism always does.
You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, where we bring you way too much information. We just tried out our brand new pre-roll opener there. It needed to run for a good solid 2 minutes so we can get our, with our new Rumble program going and the YouTube feeds and all of that. So if you guys are wondering, like, what is going on with this long placeholder video? That's why we're doing it, so all of the different feeds can sync up and nobody misses the beginning of the show. Because, Ted, some people say this is the best part where you and I are BSing back and forth.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I do think, and we haven't really talked about this because you were sick on Monday, but Robbie and I kind of did it. I think, just sort of like a looser format is better. It's just sort of like more conversational. Less radio-y, because it's not a radio show.
It's not a radio show.
It's a fake. When I think about like, I'm going to be on the radio, it's like it's fake. Really, it's not radio. It's a podcast, really. So
it's a streaming podcast show, like a live. You're watching a live podcast, and we're real people, and we're uncensored here. So that's why I always have to warn everyone that F-bombs do fly here.
They do. I do have to say. Although we don't really have to warn them because it's kind of like, it's the internet. That's true everywhere on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, but it should.
How the internet be?
yeah. The internet is a gross verbiage zone. I got to say, you and I are both children of the 80s. I love that. I love that video. Oh my God! It so brings me back to like my.
I made that.
It was like totally like, I remember walking into like a bar on 8th Street and it had a car sticking out of the roof of the bar.
How cool!
And it was like and it had like you walk in the first time and they're like playing Wire and you're like, oh, that's awesome.
Everyone with the Aquanet hair. See, I missed that era.
Spiky hair.
I missed that era. Obviously, I am a child of the 80s, but because my mom's younger sisters,
I kept my 80s clothes and my son's been rifling through them. And,
oh my God.
And like, so I still have in the original configuration, like the jackets, the jackets with the new wave buttons going down the side.
That's like what I remember.
And
my
remember the Eurotrash
mom's younger
shirts,
sisters are your age.
The Eurotrash shirts with like the bright colors, like used to wear, that kind of stuff.
Oh my God. Amazing. I was just obviously too young. The reason I'm interested, or I even like that 80s era vibe, is because I grew up in a household because we were the same generation, me and my mom's younger siblings, because my mom's number 2 of 7, and my mom's younger sisters were more like my older sisters than my aunts. And they were, in high school and in the 80s. And, as the music trends changed, I would hear everything and I saw what they wore. I saw the lace gloves. Because obviously this is women. The big brooches.
Yep.
Like, so I grew up loving that kind of fashion.
A lot of like vintage little handbags from the 1920s and 30s.
So amazing. I love the 80s.
Everyone still smoked. So people had cigarette cases from like the 19-teens and 20s. Everyone was vintage shopping.
They had the long stick for the cigarettes. Remember that?
Yeah, no, I don't know anyone had that. That's a level of pretentiousness that nobody I knew
California 80s hipster that I remember my
the cigarette holder
friends had the long stick and they'd bite on it, and I thought that was so cool. But I was a little kid. But that's the vibe I was going for when I made this video.
That's when as someone who hates smoking and was happy, I would love to have it banned. I've always thought that smoking accessories were super cool. Like my dad's Zippo lighter from World War
Oh, yeah.
II. And like, you know, a lot of the ashtrays, the vintage ashtrays are amazing.
They're works of art.
They are. Yeah.
Works of art. They're
Cigarette
blown
girls, be
glass.
sexy and cute.
Oh man, that's the vibe I was aiming for with this video pre-roll, that I'm trying to get my video editing prowess back up to speed, because, you know, when I was a fancy anchor, I had a whole team that did that for me. I don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
those days
I'm
may
going,
return.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm not so sure about that.
Oh, I'm not sure either.
Not at this rate, with the war back and forth, and Trump now being like, "Oh, I kind of like Zelensky. Pootie, why are you being mean to him?" Like, this is just a cluster F, and I'm gonna say it. Me and Mark Sloboda, we don't expect it to grind to a sudden halt.
Yeah, right now things are
End of the year.
are looking like you guys were right and I was wrong. But you know, I'm
You're
not,
so
it's not
optimistic.
Sure. Well, I'm just no. I mean, I try not to be. Optimism is fool's gold.
Yes, it will kill you, Ted.
No, optimism is bad for you for sure. You know, I mean, people commit suicide due to optimism. Pessimists don't need to commit suicide. But
I accept the futility. So
no,
once
but
you
I mean,
accept
it's like,
it, you're just
but I don't.
like,
You know, I try to analyze things the way they look. I still think my instinct still tells me, my pattern recognition tells me this war is going to come to an end sooner rather than later. But we'll see.
I don't know.
I think this is just Trump's posturing.
Mark in Manila say maybe the start of Q4. We're in Q2 now, so I'm going to say the start of Q4. That's where Mark and I have been for a long time. I'm with Sloboda.
Yeah, I think we're going to be. I think I foolishly said a month. That's definitely wrong. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I have do-over? Like
no do-overs. Like we put in our bets.
Frig.
Although we're not gambling on this show, let me just say, because, you know, we're on YouTube. But as a figure of speech, we put our bets down, and I'm going with Q4. Ted said,
what would be the
bet
would be
next month.
We did have a bet, which we're not having?
I don't know. We have to think about that. But as a
loser
figure
has
of
to host
speech,
solo for a couple of days.
That it would be hard. Let me say, if I had to, because, well, if you had to do it too, I have more experience pushing the buttons now.
That's true. Although I did, you know,
harder
as you know, when I'm on with Robbie, I push the buttons. So I don't do nearly as good a job as you do.
But then you have Robbie to talk to if you're hosting solo.
It's not pushing the buttons that's really the issue. It's for me, it's keeping the needle moving, you know?
Yeah. And that's hard to do, but I couldn't, there's no way you could, it's hard to do this by yourself. Anyway, with that said, again, I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. We're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And we will actually have to get to some news because we have a guest at the half-hour mark.
And I know, and you wisely said that let's just do 4, but let's race through these because there's a 5th headline I really feel like we should do if we have time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go.
All right. Let's jump to the jaws.
So, yes. So here's what's going on. Democrats and Republicans in the House of Representatives were joined yesterday to force a full floor vote on a bipartisan measure which would allow members of the House of Representatives who have newborn babies to proxy vote for their first 12 weeks that their parents. This is in opposition to Speaker Mike Johnson, who doesn't like this idea. The attempt to block proxy voting fell short when Democrats and Republicans came together to say, yeah, if we have a newborn, we don't want to have to come to work. 9 Republicans joined with all the Democrats. They voted 206 to 222. The effort is led by Representatives Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican from Florida. She gave birth 2 years ago. And Brittany Peterson, a Colorado Democrat who also had a baby while serving in office. Johnson says it's unconstitutional. The Louisiana Republican called the failed vote disappointing. If passed, the actual bill, because bear in mind this is just about bringing it to the floor, would allow a member of the House who's a mom or a dad of a newborn baby to give their voting privilege to Clovis, my cat. No, to a fellow member on Capitol Hill. We haven't lost that much democracy yet, so that they can cast their vote for them. So it's proxy voting.
I got a lot to
I'm
say about that.
inclined to agree with Speaker Johnson. I believe it is
What?
I believe it's unconstitutional. I think that
Okay.
you would need a constitutional amendment. I think it's a good idea. I just think it's unconstitutional.
Well, I can agree with you on that part, that perhaps based on the antiquated, though mostly writing of the Constitution on the subject of this particular matter, I can't believe I'm agreeing with this woman, with Anna Paulina Luna, who's, can be a bit
Appropriately named.
lunatic-y. But I agree with her on this, and all of the Democrats. Look, when the Constitution was written, not only were women not allowed to vote, Ted, much less be in Congress.
Right.
So it does not work with the modern America.
And
secondly,
parenting was really considered like women's work at the time. Right.
And what pisses me off more about Speaker Johnson is this douchebag used it for many months. He did proxy voting during COVID. Okay, everybody did proxy voting during COVID because the 105-year-old dinosaurs that we have pushing the buttons of yay or nay, they can't come to Capitol Hill like during the midst of a
pandemic. Well, they didn't have someone else vote for them, though, right? I think that's the issue.
No, they did. They had proxy voting during COVID.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So I don't understand that.
So exactly my point is Speaker Johnson is being a big effing hypocrite. That little is that when it comes to this primarily affects women, right? So this is a women's rights thing. And when we are having a population decline as it is, right?
And no, I would have when my kid was a newborn, I would have paid money to not be allowed to stay home. I would have been like, that's up to
the individual parent, right? Yeah. For a parent like me, if I were on, in Congress, I would be so pissed that this was not a part of my parental leave package. Like this, if you're afforded 12 weeks parental leave in your job, whatever your job may be, and if it can be done remotely.
I disagree with that. No parental leave for congressmen. Sorry.
If it can be done, then. if your job can be done remotely, which during COVID, it was proven that many, many, many jobs can be done remotely.
That's true.
I think you're only allowing this exception to a small minority of people who are in Congress. It is a small minority.
I'm sorry. I think it's like, if you're a member of the House of Representatives, you don't get any time off. Sorry. You don't even get vacation. Like, forget it. No.
I think they can, when it comes to new parents and new babies, I don't think it should be, especially a woman, should be forced to decide to either pick their career as a congresswoman or their families. I don't think that's a fair choice because it's not the same for mothers and fathers. As a dad, okay, maybe you can pick up and go pull a lever, fly to Washington for a day or two, pull a lever and then come home or not come home, as you say, Ted.
I would.
It's not the same for a
I'd be asking the speaker, like, hey, can you please call 24-hour sessions? I'd like to stay here.
I want to sit here and listen to Cory Booker's 25-hour floor speech because I got a crying newborn. But anyway, I can't believe I'm agreeing with all the Democrats and Anna Paulina Luna.
Well, I have to agree with you, obviously. I see the issue, but yeah, you're right. All right, let's keep going.
It's antiquated. If they need to vote on that to make a constitutional amendment to this is something that I would agree with all of the Democrats.
I think it should. Yeah, I agree with you. All right.
I can't believe
the Department of Corrections here in New York says that it's planning to release a lot of prisoners due to a prison strike here in New York. Corrections officers began striking in February over forced overtime and bad working conditions, blaming a 2022 state law for the fact that things are getting worse. The strike finished last month, but the prison system is lurching from one crisis to another. In view of the staffing crisis and in order to have the appropriate balance between the safety and well-being of those working and residing in DOCCS correctional facilities and public safety, I, as commissioner, should exercise my authority to move individuals from the department's general confinement facilities into residential treatment out-count status, whatever that means. Commissioner Daniel Martuscello III wrote in his memo. Those guilty of Class BE violent felonies, sex offenses, and an array of other crimes will not be eligible for release, but Martuscello said that he does expect a large number of inmates to qualify and be released. Deadline is April 4th, that's Friday, for superintendents in the prison system to submit their first list of releases. Those releases will apply to people who have fewer than 110 days left until they would have been released anyway and have an approved residence to go to. They must first report to a parole officer within 24 hours of release. Look, it all depends.
Fill
right?
me in here, because I don't know what's going on in New York.
Well, okay, so it depends, right? So Rikers Island is the city jail lockup, the main one. There's several.
Yeah.
And that's been a catastrophe for years. The system has completely broken down. There's basically no supervision from corrections officers due to short staffing in many parts of the jail. It's a vast, sprawling complex it has tens of thousands of people in it. And it's many of the sections of the jail are run by gangs, including like the medical and food systems. So it's extremely dangerous. People die in custody all the time while awaiting trial. Most of the people in there are awaiting trial, totally in violation of their constitutional rights, where they're supposed to be able to get indicted within 24 hours. That doesn't happen. And there's just warehouse because the courts are so backed up. So anyway, it's a catastrophe. The corrections officers union, is encouraging people not even to apply for the jobs. Basically they can't recruit no one wants to work for the corrections department. It's so incredibly dangerous and depressing, and it's an impossible situation. So basically, they should really release most of these people. There are people in there for like really stupid shit, like, pissing in the street and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And like, so.
But I think the story's less about the inmates themselves. I mean, I would agree with you. There's a lot of people stuck in jail or prison for dumb shit. But what is the complaint from the correctional officers?
Well, they're short staffed, so they don't have the resources to deal, and they
they're forced to overtime?
Yeah, and they can't keep themselves safe, right? Like they can't, like in other words, there's not enough of them if something goes down for them to be able to regain, control of the situation. And they can't,
like
a lot
this
of them,
that we're seeing on screen.
Some corrections officers, and me, I'm not exactly a fan.
There's a woman in there. There's a woman.
I'm not really a fan of the man, but I got to tell you, a lot of corrections officers actually are very upset at the conditions in which the prisoners are being kept, both because they care about the prisoners and don't want that to happen, and also because those conditions lead to prison revolts and violence and tension. I mean, corrections officers tend to prefer happy inmates because they're easier to control. So, that's why this whole thing is completely, it's broke. It's completely, it's a collapsed system. Way too many people are in custody. I mean, obviously the street crime is out of control. That's why so many people are in custody.
Sure.
The courts are completely backed up. That's part of it. I mean, it's just like, it's just a catastrophe.
The whole system's just fucking broken. The whole thing. The whole thing.
And the facilities are antiquated, and
the whole thing.
Nobody gives a shit about the prisons, about inmates, or really about corrections officers. Nobody cares.
That's terrible, especially for people that are actually doing the job. I know a lot of them are scummy, but there's also a lot of them that are normal, nice, regular people.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a hodgepodge. I mean, it's kind of surprising when you do a dive into this, how many of those people are not scumbags. Now, that's not like ICE people. ICE people are all scumbags. But like,
I don't know any ICE.
But like, no, if you work for ICE, you don't even deserve love. You don't deserve sex. You don't deserve food. You should just die. But like,
you should be made a eunuch.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. Like, just go away. Like, leave the country. No one needs you. We all hate you. Okay.
Well, if you're the dirtbag that's stalking college students and nabbing them, Like
Yeah.
if you're that
Yeah.
person, like that's
You're
and you proclaim to be a good
you're
person,
roughing
find
up
another job.
college professors and scientists. Yeah.
Find another job, I would
Yeah.
say, if
Just
you're a
Mr.
good person.
Gestapo. But like a lot of corrections officers are not like that. They really, I mean, I would never apply for this job. I mean,
Oh no.
I'd sooner be a cop, and I would not be a cop.
You know,
But
my husband, after he got out of the military, there, before I think this is before he took up the GI Bill and did any formal education. Um, he was briefly a corrections officer. So I've heard
oh wow,
he what he said he saw was that's what encouraged him to take up the GI Bill and use it.
really?
Yeah. He said that I didn't want this for my life and I used the GI Bill and the rest is history. But that's what he did after he got out of the military, after like 8 or 10 years. He
All
was
right,
like,
let's keep
I don't want
going.
to be here. Don't want to do this.
America's favorite first son, Hunter Biden, is giving up.
Love him.
He's so cute. Giving up his law license in D.C. according to an affidavit unsealed by the Board on Professional Responsibility. The license was suspended last June after he was convicted of 3 felonies in Delaware, but he was pardoned in December. So I kind of think I don't see why he has to give up his license. Anyway,
he could stay technically because he's
technically
pardoned?
an attorney, although he doesn't practice. But he was an attorney since 2007. The board recommended that the Court of Appeals, which has the final say on all this, agrees to Biden's consent to disbarment. So in other words, Biden said it's okay, you can take it away. And so
Okay.
no
So clear
one's
something
arguing
up for
here.
me. Clear something up for me, Ted. So I get it. Hunter was on the chopping block of losing his law license, of being disbarred when he was convicted of those crimes and those felonies. But then daddy gave him this pardon. So a pardon what just wipes the slate clean, right? Is that what that is?
I guess not, right? The pardon means, I mean, actually not at all, right? The pardon means that you have to concede, you have to admit guilt. That's one of the problems with a pardon. And there are some people who are really hardcore who are like, I'm not going to admit that I did something that I didn't do.
Right.
So, so those people, they, like they'll just be like, refuse it. So the point is that like it doesn't wipe the slate clean. You're admitting guilt, but you're just not being punished. That's what a pardon means. So from the standpoint of a law license, which is about like ethical behavior or lack thereof, it's basically, it's like Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton lost his law license.
Oh, did he? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I think I don't know if it was permanent or not, but I mean it's kind of purely symbolic. I mean, like I still have my taxi license when I used to drive a taxi, and
you have to be licensed for that.
Oh, are you kidding? It's a very hard license to get. No, you have to be in New York. You have to be licensed to drive a truck in order to, like a semi, in order to get a taxi license. It's a class 4 permit. I don't know if they've changed it. That's how it used to be. And then after that, you had to pass the hack license test, which again, I don't know if they've made it easier. I assume they have because they made Harvard easier. But like everything's easier. But like you had to know New York City backwards and forwards, and it's kind of funny because you kind of don't have to now. They have GPS, but like we had to know everything. Like, oh, there's a church on East 11th Street. You can't. The 11th Street doesn't go all the way through. You have to go around. I mean, it's just like stuff like that. And you had to know the name of a obscure little park that's big enough for like 20 people to stand in, like in Staten Island. And it's like no one ever says to take me to Marcus Garvey Park. I mean, that's in Harlem, but nobody tells you that ever.
Aren't we concerned now for the well-being of this young buck, this young man,
Not
Hunter
so young
Biden?
Anymore.
I know, but his family, obviously, the country, the left side of the media, and his own parents treat him. I mean, this is a 55-year-old man, and they treated him with kid gloves.
Yeah, if you ever wonder like what the term man boy is, look at this guy, man child. Well,
what's he gonna do?
Joe's a man child too. I mean, he really is.
Papa Joe?
Yeah, he's a man child. I mean, he's like emotionally a child. He's like,
Maybe.
amen, amen. It was like no accepting of responsibility,
Oh, that's kind of true. Yeah. I'm curious to know now that the Bidens are out of office and Hunter is disbarred. Like, well, what? Oh, you know what? I forgot he
always
has a
work in
successful
Ukraine.
art business.
The art business tanked ever since Biden left. It's such an interesting coincidence. Such a
Oh.
coincidence. I mean, obviously,
Oh.
it's so weird how the art market for Hunter's work collapsed on January 19th of this year, which I think it's a remarkable coincidence.
What a coincidence. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry to see. I never made it to a gallery show, Ted.
Well, it's not
Darn.
too late. All right, let's keep going. Val Kilmer, the actor who tasted leading man stardom as Jim Morrison in Batman, but whose protean gifts and elusive personality also made him a high-profile supporting actor, has died. He was 65 years old. It was pneumonia. He had throat cancer back in 2014, but later recovered, but he lost his voice. He was cast as a rocker a bunch of times early on in his career when he seemed destined for blockbuster success. He made a bunch of movies. The Cold War spy movie spoof Top Secret, 1984. Highly recommend you not to watch that. It's terrible. He of course played Jim Morrison in The Doors. The movie sucks, but his performance is amazing. He's in True Romance, playing the role of kind of an Elvis Presley kind of guy. True Romance is totally great, and it's a Quentin Tarantino movie directed by Tony Scott. Well, everyone should see that. He is top billing in Thunderheart, which is kind of a really dumb movie about like an Indian FBI agent investigating a murder on an Indian res. In The Saint, he's like a thief who plays cat and mouse with the Russian mafia. Worth seeing, but not good. Probably best seen drunk. He's also in Batman Forever. That blows. Do not ever see that. And of course, most recently, and most notably, the most recent Top Gun movie, in which they call it a cameo, but it's a real role, and he can't talk, and it's kind of amazing that he was.
They AI'd his voice.
But I mean, the truth is he was. I mean, you can't take your eyes off him. He's really like, you could tell he was dying. That role reminded me a little bit of John Wayne's last movie, The Shootist, which I believe is 1976. He was dying of lung cancer, and he plays a guy who's like dying of lung cancer, and it's like kind of an amazing performance. It's just like highly recommended. It's like one of the best Westerns period ever made. It's basically about like how the Old West is modernizing, like during the setting, it's like the early 1900s, and they're bringing electricity, and all the old ways of the Old West are going away, and he's like one of the last gunslingers, but he has some like outstanding, let's just say not financial, but he has some debts that have to be paid up. It's a fucking amazing film. Anyway, this
character here, we're watching it right there.
Top Gun 2 is not like that, but it's
all right, but
but
it's
his
fun.
Performance reminded me of John Wayne in The Shootist. That's the highest praise I can give. Val Kilmer was like one of those guys, you were always happy when he was in the movie to see him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so he just got
and they say he was a method actor.
Right.
They say he was kind of a pain in the ass on set.
By all accounts, he was a difficult person to work with. And finally,
what a sad ending.
I love this story. So Mike Waltz, who's the inexplicably still the national security advisor under Trump, you might recall, of course, that he was caught sending top secret war plans to other douchebags and accidentally to the editor of The Atlantic via Signal, the app on your phone. Well, now it turns out he's also been conducting government business over his personal Gmail account, like a complete twat. So he used this to talk about sensitive military positions and weapons systems, about an ongoing conflict. Gee, I wonder which one.
Not smart.
And anyway, so he had info sent to his Gmail, like his schedule and other work documents, according to officials. The official said that he copied and pasted from his schedule into Signal to coordinate meetings and discussions. So, I mean, he may be, as you said in our private chat, which was not on Signal, before the show, Manila, he may be the stupidest person in Washington, D.C. And that's saying a great deal.
Look, for a guy that spent...
What's next? Is he using passenger pigeons? I mean,
For a guy... No, he's just going to send messages via billboard. Just electric billboard.
Sure.
Just
why not?
Drive around on those trucks with the billboards on the side.
Sure.
He's just going to be like, truck. President Trump, I got a message from Benjamin Netanyahu about...
or the beach planes, with the ad.
Yeah, the banners in the back just flying over Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Look, you and I have said this. I know people screw up, and I do believe people deserve a second chance. But on
guess what?
This
was his second chance.
I know, and that's it. On this scale, this is a huge embarrassment to any administration. I don't care that it's Trump. I don't care that it's Mike Waltz. If it was anybody, I don't care if it was Biden's administration or Obama's administration. You have your national security advisor doing unnationally secure things twice in a row. Twice.
And there's more. And it's not one time either.
My
God. This is a habit of his. He should be gone.
What an embarrassment.
I mean, and the Republican brand used to be that they were the national security party, right? So
what an embarrassment.
He should Trump should fire him.
If Mr. Waltz had any sense of pride and dignity, he should be like, I'm gonna step down. I'm bringing
for the good of the
administration. Yeah, I'm bringing too much heat onto the administration. Like, I screwed up twice in a row. My bad. Let me tuck tail and go into the private sector, which he'll end up being a multimillionaire lobbyist after this, right? Like, he'll never have to work a day in his life ever again. Now that he's gotten this far. He's been a congressman,
Fox News analyst, whatever. Yeah.
He was there. He was a Fox News analyst before he became a congressman. So that said, also it highlights the hypocrisy of how he has spent many, many hours on TV trashing Hillary Clinton over her servers in the bathrooms or whatever, which she deserves. I get it. She deserves.
Yeah.
But he's the national security advisor sending okay, maybe even if it's not top secret, it's his schedule or whatever, but he shouldn't be.
Yeah, she was Secretary of State, which is not quite as secure a position as his.
This is dumb. This is super, super dumb. And if he had any kind of
they're
dignity,
shameless shitheads is what they are.
He should just go away. You should have some shame.
It's a fucking embarrassment. I'm really curious where Trump's going to come down on this. I think this could go either way, 50-50. He's got to be kind of like, I don't know. I mean,
he needs to get a pulse on the Oval Office and get ahead of it and tuck tail and
also, if someone's that fucking stupid, how can you trust their judgment?
Right. That's another matter. So, there you go. That's the
all right. Let's
Trump circus. All right. So let's switch gears. We're going to bring in our guest to talk about some of the other Trump actions that, there's stuff happening at breakneck lightning speed. So we'll tell you what it is on the other side of this.
All right. So please forgive me. I'm going to do my best here on the pronunciation front. Dr. Gloria Esoimeme is an internal medicine physician with a master's in global health and a PhD in health services policy and administration. With her distinguished academic background and experience living in Nigeria, the US, and the UAE, she equips women with the skills to lead, negotiate, and succeed. Sorry. As a consultant, the allergies are starting. As a consultant, she helps individuals and organizations break barriers, build confidence, and achieve lasting success. Through her podcast, workshops, and keynote speakers, she shares expert insights, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to empower women in every aspect of life. Dr. Esoimeme, thank you so much for joining us here on the TMI Show.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Manila.
Hello. Can we call you Dr. Gloria?
You can.
Okay. Thank you for that. So first up, we have to talk about, obviously you became an MD. You would be a good example of a woman's success story, right? Being an immigrant to the U.S. Here you are, an MD, and now you want to coach women, which is outside of the field of internal medicine, that's what you're, the kind of doctor that you are. Why did you want to make that switch?
I won't describe it as a switch. I do both. I don't think I can ever stop being a doctor. It's because I grew up in Nigeria, and from high school you jump right into med school. Unlike the
Oh,
US,
wow.
yes, unlike the US where you have to do 4 years of undergrad and then med school. So right from when you're not even an adult, you're trained to be a doctor. So I don't think I can
Wow.
ever know how not to be one, since all of my adult life I've been a doctor. So
Wow.
I still see patients. I work in a rural area in Albany, Georgia. I work 3 days a week. It's full time, but I see patients 3 days a week, and then I have my Saturday, my Thursday, Fridays, and weekends for more other creative stuff.
And what made you want to venture into this? I mean, you know,
Mhm.
the success coaching, what do you think women in particular need to think about right now as Donald, we were just talking about Donald Trump, his
Yeah,
administration. What do you think a lot of women need to consider at this time, given that there is a lot of backlash against woke agenda, what they call woke agendas, what they would say is a professional DEI rollback.
yeah,
How do you think the women that are looking up to you for advice, what do they need to consider professionally when
right.
they're now graduating university or graduating medical school or whatever, wherever it is, they're going out into the workforce, and it's a different place than the professional age when you and I came of that professional age.
So there's two ways to look at DEI. There's the lens from the individual, like me, you, we're looking for a job, we're trying to move up. There's also the lens from the institution, right? So the people who are employing, they are the ones who are kind of reaching out and say, hey, come be at the table. But from the other end, we're pursuing excellence. We're trying to qualify for the jobs. We're not trying to say, oh, I'm not qualified, please give me a role. It's I'm qualified, give me a seat at the table. So the difference now is maybe before they would have an organization where maybe there are all male. They'll say, okay, we need some females here. And then they start to reach out to women to say, you come to, there was that invitation to come to the table. Or they say, we need a Black person here. And then they are reaching out, trying to make the whole community more diverse. I still have some reservations about that, because there might be an invitation to diversity, but inclusion is not really there. It was never there. They have, like, you have people come to the table to a mix that's not really a good fit for them, and they never feel included. So that's on the other end. But but like I said earlier, the difference is that now women have to be more proactive to get those roles, because no one's going to be like, oh, we have 10 males here, we need one woman. They're fine with the whole system now. It's fine just having 10 men, or just having having situations where there's no racial diversity. So that's the difference. Now you have to reach out. We as women, we have to reach out more and ask for those roles.
Doctor, how widespread are these changes? Or the new administration's only been in office for less than 3 months, and obviously they can have an impact on the government with executive orders. But private institutions and corporations, especially those that don't have federal contracts or relationships, they can still do whatever they want, right? So,
That's correct.
there must still be quite a few institutions that have not that have no intention of changing their policies.
There's still places that still want to be what they've been doing. However, we can't deny the power that the federal government has over the whole country. We can take, for example, you can say Walmart. That's where I get groceries, but there's Target. That's where I get stuff from. But they're all changing policies based on the federal government, and some are just scared of backlash. Like, since the federal government is saying there's no more DEI, and then they buy into that, then they're like, okay, we're going to switch and then conform to what the federal government is saying. So we can't deny the power of the federal government.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before you came on, one of the top news stories that Ted and I were discussing was the measure led by congresswomen who recently had babies, trying to push for a proxy vote allowance for new moms and new dads too, but mostly this was for them, new moms. And even though proxy voting technically in the Constitution is not written there, so therefore, it defaults to saying you can't do it. The fact that the Constitution was written before women could vote, and
Correct.
secondarily before
Or own
women
property.
be in the office, right? It could be in Congress.
Could
So,
even have a credit card, you know.
Yeah, my mom couldn't get a credit card until the 70s.
oh my
Or-
God,
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
everything that women were not allowed to do. So it's not outlined, obviously, in the Constitution because, we weren't a party of making the Constitution. We weren't considered for it. So, I'd happily say that they should push for a constitutional amendment for something like that to allow for women. I mean, if you're creating life, you're populating this country, populating the earth. There's a decline in births to begin with all around the world, and especially here in the US, that's gonna be a problem. Um, then why, like you said, if the ideas roll down from Capitol Hill, shouldn't we start there as one step to empower women to both have their career and be able to have families?
You would think it's a no-brainer because when women can get pregnant on their own now, but most women do not get pregnant by themselves. So there are men involved in that equation. So you would think that men would be more proactive. In trying to create space for women to thrive professionally. And I agree with you completely. It should start from DC, but it's not. It's stopping from there. So that's the issue. But even though there's no more DEI, that does not mean women cannot thrive. That does not mean that's the end, because there are lots of qualified women. You, Manila, you're qualified. I'm qualified. You're not gifted with what you do now. It was something you earned. I wasn't gifted with a medical degree. They didn't say, "Oh, Gloria, you're black, you're female. Oh, go be a doctor." No, that's not what it was. I worked hard, and so have other women, and so have worked, and they're still working hard. But it's just for women to be more proactive and not wait to be told to come to the table. And also, this might be time for women to start their own businesses where they can lead and then create environments for other women to thrive.
Yeah, I agree. We're seeing a lot more female owned businesses. I think we saw a lot of it during the pandemic,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we also saw a lot of at least when it comes to like tech companies that women were the heads of, that there were some fallouts, and then the news media, turns it into a cat fight. Meow. Just girls can't run companies. Look at them. They're fighting and scratching and clawing each other. But
Because
there's
men never argue.
Never.
no, when you
That's the
guys
best thing about
argue,
us. There's never any drama.
No
when you
disagreement.
men fight,
No
it's
disagreements.
a respectable disagreement. When women at the professional level fight or disagree, it's a cat fight. It's always, it's the stigma is still there for women in business. How do we overcome that? I'm not a big fan of DEI myself either. I know, having been a child of the 80s, I mean, none of this existed in the 80s for me here in the US, right?
Well, there was affirmative action, right? I mean that goes
That was
back
in the
to
late.
the 70s.
It worked against me. It worked against me in the 90s,
Because
Ted,
you're Asian.
because I'm Asian. So it actually worked against
For
me.
college
And
admissions
and
and
it
stuff,
worked
yeah.
against dozens of Asian kids that were trying to get into Harvard, and some of the nasty things that were said about them, behind closed doors that were unveiled during discovery. But besides that, so I'm actually, I would say I'm living proof. I've lived it, that some DEI initiatives have backfired against. I'm a double minority, a female and a brown woman,
Well, so you
a
benefit
brown
kind
yellow
of,
woman.
you benefit half, but then you don't benefit from the other half. The problem, I think the reason that this got to be so controversial has been just that, there's been an argument that employment and college admissions and so on is not a zero-sum game. But the fact is it is. I mean, the fact is there's only so many seats at Harvard. There's only
Right.
so many, when a hospital hires doctors, they only have X number. And so,
Right.
if you get it, someone else doesn't get it. That's just how it is. So, and I think, there's kind of like the sense like, old white guys, they're feeling left behind. I mean, I've had a pretty good life, but a lot of them are really, truly, their wages are falling. There's almost, there's only 40% of college students are boys now. There's a problem there. And so I think, but it's kind of like, but then I don't know. It's just like, it just seems like so American we keep overcorrecting every time we go from one extreme to the other. It's like, let's have systemic racism and sexism forever. And it's like, okay, now let's just no, if you're like an old white guy, you can't get a job at all. It's like, now let's get rid of so let's go back to the way it was. Like, no. It's like, is it possible to achieve some kind of, really what we need is equality?
You're right. But the big question is, how do we achieve that? That's a big question.
That's what politics is the process of arguing about, questions like that. If I had the answer, I would tell you. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I don't know. I'm not a conservative, obviously, but I'm also not a Democrat.
Well, you voted
either.
for Trump, so you can't quite say
that. Doesn't make me a Republican. That doesn't make me a conservative by any
Republicans
stretch.
be Republicaning.
No, that is not the case. Like, my reasons why I voted for him. Right, because I should vote with my female body parts for Kamala Harris. So, that was one of the things that I hated about the campaign was they tried to rally. She didn't offer enough as a vice president and then as a nominee herself in the 11th hour. That then she had to appeal.
You could follow my approach and not vote for
to 50% of the population by saying you should vote for me just because I'm a Black and Asian woman. We have the same body parts, so you should vote for me.
You could have voted for Dr. Stein like I did.
I think we have a really
throw
good
away
mix.
a vote again.
I think we have a good mix here because I voted for Kamala and you voted for Trump and you didn't vote. So that's
I voted for Stein. I did vote.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. I voted for the Green Party.
She's a white female, Ted.
Yeah, that's right. Last time
it cancels out.
I'm not sure about that.
In DEI chess, it cancels each other out.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't like about the
politics
of DEI.
Do you think if maybe DEI had gone on for another, let's say another 10, 20 years, if we would have gotten to that place of equity where we will not need DEI anymore, maybe a few more years where there's some balance, where minorities would have been, because lots of Black people, lots of women, white women, lots of Asian kids got into Ivy League schools because of DEI. So do you think after a while there would have been balance if we kept this going for a while?
I mean, the way I look at it is no, because human civilization, settled civilization is 20,000 years old, right? So are we going to say that for 19,950 years we had systemic racism and sexism, and then it's okay, and now in 20 or 30 years we can erase all that? I don't think it's possible. There's with racism, there's the whole accumulated wealth problem, right? White America has accumulated wealth on the backs of Black people and other people for centuries. It's the entire country is built on slavery and racism. It's you can't, unless you have a communist revolution with a radical redistribution of wealth and income. I don't see how you can fix this by nipping and tucking at the edges of the capitalist system. you know?
That's an interesting take, but I feel like I'm pro excellence, I'm pro merit, but at the same time, I also believe some people should be called to the table when they deserve to be called. So if you are qualified, then you should have a seat at the table. Not like you're qualified, but because you don't fit a certain norm or description, then you're not given a seat at that table.
Well,
I think.
well, for example, let's talk about when Joe Biden took office and he said specifically when there was a seat to be open at the U.S. Supreme Court, he specifically said, "I am going to appoint a Black woman specifically," and now Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is in there obviously, and
Yeah.
it's history making on many. I mean, there are a lot of things to celebrate about that, but and I'm no expert on her career, and I know that she was a judge here in DC.
Yeah.
I'm no expert in her career, so obviously she worked to get to where she was at that point. But the moment that Joe Biden announced that that she was picked specifically because she was the color that he wanted and the gender that he wanted, or the sex that he wanted, it created an air of discrediting her achievements up to that
Mm.
point. He actually did her a disservice by actually stating publicly that he was going to choose a Black woman. So I feel like I would feel like it was almost slanderous if I was her that he said that ahead of, my nomination. That if he said, "I'm going to pick an Asian woman," and then he's like, "I'm picking Manila Chan," and I'm like, "Oh my God, now everyone thinks you picked me because you said you want a yellow female." Like that just
So,
dissolves and everything
I,
I've
I
accomplished in my life.
I see what you're saying, because now it's more like, oh, you're Black, you female, that's why you're here.
Right.
However, that's not all why she was there. We all know that. So there's still the resume to look at. I think for every, in quotes, diversity hire, there should be like a match and say, okay, so if this was a guy, were we gonna was this person qualified for this position? And if that person is not qualified, then I think that's not what diversity and inclusion is all about. If that person is qualified and you're saying, you know what, I can look here, or maybe I have on this board, all I have is just white males, and I'm like, I want something different, or all I have is just Black females, and I say I want something different, then I should go specifically to look for what I want. However, it shouldn't be that you're not qualified, just, or let's say,
Right.
for example, like med school, let's say we have like the cutoff for MCAT, and then because you're Black, then you have a score of 450, will like come in because you know, if your score matches the requirement, then we can call you in. Because I'll use medicine because that's my bread and butter, that's what I know. uh, so there are patients who would come see me because I'm Black. That's why they would come see me. And there are Asian doctors who would pull all the community of Asian, the
Mhm.
Asian population in the city, because studies have shown that people are more comfortable seeing doctors who look like them. And so
Mhm.
it's not just about the institution now, it's about who we're serving. So if my hospital, for example, says they're not going to be purposeful about inclusion, there are patients who would not feel fulfilled going to see their doctor. They would always have that reservation, and because some would say, "Oh, I feel I can tell you everything," just because they feel comfortable. So there's that part of who was serving.
When I went to see a urologist, I don't want to see a female urologist. Sorry. And I'm sorry,
Exactly.
because I'm sure there are women who are excellent urologists.
Yep.
And
Well,
obviously,
I
if I had,
prefer a female gynecologist.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel sorry for male gynecologists because it's like probably harder for them to get clients.
Not really, because
No.
already people already have it in their mind what doctors look like. Doctors
Oh,
look like tall white male.
Yes.
So they're more comfortable. Then it's just like an extra layer of comfort when you're female. But they're like,
mhm.
oh yeah, because I've had male gynecologists and I've gone for my pap smears and I'm like, yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
I
Yeah.
kind of I
Huh.
see what you're saying, Dr. Gloria. I mean, like I don't know if somehow in my mind I justified it with the fact that my doctors are all of a certain age before, DEI became a thing in the last
Yeah.
years, right? So I guess in my mind, it's just and let me tell you, all of my doctors, well, except for my breast oncology doctor, he's a tall, very handsome white male. Uh, but all of my other doctors are female minorities. There, I have a female Black doctor. I have
Well,
a
you and
female
I both.
Asian doctor. I have a female
That's true for
Arab,
me too.
Middle Eastern doctor.
That's true for me too. But that's, you would live in Washington, I live in New York. These are very ethnically diverse cities.
True.
True. But if you live in, like, say, where our producer lives in Montana, maybe not so much.
Right.
True. True.
Like
I mean,
for example, my one of my colleagues here, she's Black, and her husband, his primary care doctor just left, and I was telling him, I said, "Sure, I can be your doctor." He was like, "Gloria, I'm not sure." He's Black, I'm Black, but he was like, and the other doctor was white male, and he said, "I don't know if I'm comfortable talking to you about all my issues." I'm like, "Okay, go find a guy. You can go."
Because you're a woman. Because you're a woman. Right.
Correct. So that's my point about the diversity. Sometimes it's not just about what we do, it's who we serve.
Yeah, I guess especially
No,
in
it's
the
true. Like,
pool
for
of
example,
medicine.
I would never want a male therapist. Sorry. I
Really?
tried it.
A shrink?
Yeah. I mean, because I have mommy issues, and I'm like, so, like, to me, men are like, men just, I can't talk to a man. I just feel like they don't get it. I have to have a female therapist. Have to.
You see why we need a mix?
My son's
of
the same way. He
everything?
has to have a therapist. He has to have a female therapist.
Yeah, we do need a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but do you think, Dr. Gloria, without the significant moves in DEI in the workplace in the last 10 years, do you think we would have gotten there naturally on our own as a society, as a civilization, I feel like I remember growing up, in the 80s in Los Angeles, there was a great amount of very obvious racism, telling us to go back where we came from. When I was born there, and I used to look at my mom and say, "Mom, why is that man driving by? We're on bicycles, and a man drives by and says, 'Go back to your country, or go back to where you came from.'"
Yeah, I can vouch for that, having lived in California, and I was married to an Asian woman, and I couldn't believe the shit she had to put up with.
And I would tell my mom,
and if that was in
what
front
does
of
he
me,
mean?
so any guy doing that
With her
taking a
spouse.
chance, it's much worse if I'm not around, right?
So imagine that in the 1980s, Ted, because now you're in the 90s and things have already gotten softer and things have cooled down racially. But I'm talking like 1985. We're less than 10 years out after the fall of Saigon, and people are yelling at a mother and a daughter to go back to where you came from. And I'm like, "Mom, but where I'm from here, where am I supposed to go back to?"
Yeah.
Our society has changed. Society has changed so much from the 1980s, and let's say that's 1985 to now 2025. Did it evolve naturally, or did this stem from actual pushes to kind of manipulate society by way of movements and laws?
Maybe on this, I don't think DEI had any traction on the streets. I think there was just an increase in population, and then there were more like, your mom came here, she had you, if you have kids, so that was just natural. Like, we are having
demographic changes.
Yeah. And so I don't think it had anything to do. People just got more used to seeing people who are not like them. And
DEI might be also as much of a reaction or a reflection of these societal changes as a driving force.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously the answer is kind of yes, right? Like, they both have an effect. I mean, because there are definitely companies
if you're in school with kids, they don't, there's really, like, amongst kids in school, there's no like, "Oh, I'm denying you as my friend." No.
Right.
I just like you. And then we're friends. So and then you're like, oh, like some people will, oh, I have a friend from Nigeria, so I'm friends, so I'm used to that. And people just got more used to it. Then DEI was trying to push it more in the corporate world, not like on the streets where people would yell at you.
I agree with
social
that completely.
engineering,
You know,
right?
a
That's what
really
they
good,
call it.
really good reflection of that is after one of the big presidential elections, the newspaper put out a county by county, red versus blue county results, right? And one of the things I noticed is that like liberal counties tend to be like near water, and I'm like, well, what's water?
Mhm.
Water is a place where there's lots of even lakes, right? Why lakes?
It's
There's
also
like
expensive.
more travelers. Okay, yeah, it's more
Mhm.
expensive, but people, if you live on a lake, people come to visit the lake, right? Like
Right.
tourists come from other places.
Right.
If you're on a river, people come and they travel up and down. They meet different people. If you're in landlocked areas that are not tourist destinations,
There's
you're
less
less likely.
exposure.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when you meet people from other places, one of the things you learn is people are the same everywhere. But if
That's
you don't
right.
meet them, you don't get to know that.
Yes, and it's fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, fear of the unknown.
Yeah. Fear is the
That's absolutely
unknown,
it.
right? That's what it
Right.
is. It's like, oh, why are you afraid to go into that cave? Well, I don't know if there's a bear in there. If
Right.
you knew for sure, like then you wouldn't be afraid.
Right.
Well, conversely, I could say with, with my immigrant family and me being the first native born American in my entire family, like on all sides. And I'm the eldest cousin, right? I could tell you that I remember fear of the other
Mm-hmm.
worked the other way as well. Like my family was terrified of
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
that came to the door. Because
Right.
they're like, they would look out the peephole or the window and see that it's like a white face, a white male. They're like, oh no, cannot open, cannot
Like,
open.
why is
They're
he
like,
there? Yeah.
they're like terrified. And they were terrified to go through the McDonald's drive-through. They would have me shout the order of what they
Yeah.
want and translate in real time. So there is a fear of the unknown that goes the other way as well.
Right.
That then they never get out of, if those communities, when you have enough people of that particular immigrant subgroup, and if they stick amongst themselves, they then internalize these other ideas as well of this
Correct.
I don't know if it's we call it like anti-racism, I don't know, but they have their own ideas against white people or the dominant group as
Yes.
well.
I think for Asians, it would, I'm sure, because I had a friend who was born here, and then she was from India, and then her family moved after her. She was, I think maybe she was like 8. It was hard for her because there was white, there was black, and they, and it was like, okay, so what do I build? Where's my group? She
Right.
couldn't fit with the black kids. She couldn't fit with the white kids. So I think that's gradually evolving. But that was another issue where there was, we're fighting for black people and white people are, and it's like, okay, so who's fighting for me?
Yeah. For me, I was adopted by the Mexicans in my East LA community. So I'm Mexican at heart, actually. So like you said, the demographics have changed in the past 40 years in America.
Mhm.
I would say with or without any social engineering. And I think when we witnessed the last 10 years, like DEI is actually a 4-letter word, right? And it's become ugly in many circles, and it's viewed as trying to force, this kind of certain mindset down the throats of people because it's over publicized, it's overly discussed, it's just like when you have too much of anything, you're going to get sick of it. You're saturated with it.
Right,
And
right.
people are just sick of it, I think. And
Okay.
now, I don't know, we're swinging in the other direction.
All right, Manila, we've got to let Dr. Gloria
Oh, we gotta go.
She has a hard out. We've already kept her too long.
Oh gosh, I didn't know there was a hard out. Dr. Gloria, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Gloria. Dr. Gloria Esoimeme is an internal medicine physician with a master's in global health, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and a PhD in health services policy and administration with a distinguished academic career and experience living in Nigeria, the US, the UAE. She equips women with the skills to lead, negotiate, and succeed. Thanks so much for coming on the TMI Show. Hope you'll come back.
Thank you for having me. For sure, I'll come back.
Fun
Okay.
conversation. Thank you, Dr. Gloria.
Sorry for keeping you.
It's okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Well, that was the first time she was a fun guest. And that's, gosh, the women's month is what, May? No, that's Asian History Month. I forget my months. I don't even know what day it is. Whatever, I don't know. But I think the social engineering thing, and I know Robbie's going to want to weigh in on that.
And
Robbie
has some advertising to do.
You're an anomaly. You're an anomaly. You are an anomaly, being a Southern, as you brand yourself, a Southern white redneck.
By the
you're
way,
married to a black lady.
I want to be very clear that this April is Bowel Cancer Awareness Month, as well as IBS Awareness Month.
Wow!
I see a theme.
It's also Confederate History Month.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
It's also
Robbie,
National Pet Month.
Yeah, no, funny story. I kid y'all not. We first moved here to Montana.
My personal favorite, Stress Awareness Month. I want to be less aware of stress, but okay.
Yeah, no, okay.
I kid y'all not. When we first moved here to Montana, April 19th back home is a holiday. It's Robert E. Lee's birthday. Well, you put up a Confederate battle flag on Lee's birthday. Well,
if you're white, you do.
Oh no, sir, because you'd be surprised. But no,
really?
But no, we got here to Montana. We're putting up the flag, and our neighbor looked at us and he's like, "Is that a rebel flag?" I was like, "Well, it's a Confederate battle flag." And he looked at my wife and said, "But you're black." And she looked at her head and said, "Oh, by damn, I am. I never noticed." Listen, she knew what she was getting when she said, "I do." There's no mistaking about that. True story.
That's and this is, where the complexities of like DEI, it just doesn't, I don't like any kind of social engineering. I don't like eugenics. I don't like any of that stuff.
That's not true. You gotta like some social engineering. The Emancipation Proclamation was social engineering. Okay, I mean, social engineering is a lot of good social engineering.
Because they shouldn't have been slaves. People shouldn't be slaves in the first place.
But okay, so that's gonna be a topic for another show. But I was going to point this out: Abraham Lincoln, that was a cuck move on his, because it had no effect in the states to which he had authority. If you read the Emancipation Proclamation, it did not qualify for Delaware or Maryland or any of the northern states that were slave states. Yeah. Only in the Confederacy, which no longer recognized his authority. So let's call that for what it is.
Pure symbolism. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. He was trying to foment a slave revolt and it failed.
That's
but
that is
Rumble, though, here's something that's not going to fail. Rumble, and Ted's going to be quiet this time while I do this ad read. Rumble is going to pay us.
Oh, okay. So this is where we're doing
let's get paid.
Who is our sponsor today, Robbie?
Actually, this is directly from Rumble. So Rumble, I'll go ahead and just go through this. They are pushing a new Rumble Premium thing. And for those fans of you of the TMI Show here on Rumble, pay attention to this, because we will be doing premium content on Rumble, and you got to be subscribed to Rumble Premium to be able to see it. We have to do it to get into the content creator program. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this thing on up, and special thing, shout out to Rumble. Thank you for the opportunity here. Let's get loaded up here. All right. This sponsorship is from Rumble, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they felt pressured from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. Rumble held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France. They are attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive without brand advertisers. They won't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the Rumble community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human rights to free speech. Rumble is offering a $10 off discount with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy that if you watch us here on Rumble. And I fully support everything that Ad said.
I'm with that. Amen.
Okay.
I am
Because it's
with
true.
that. So, and I do remember when Emmanuel Macron tried to bully Rumble into not airing RT,
Yep.
not allowing them to have a channel, and Rumble stood up to Macron and said, "No, dude, like you're not. We're here for free speech. You know, you don't need to like the Russians. We're neutral to this. We just want everybody to have, you know, a voice like that." That's really when I was like, you know, I'm a fan. Like that's where I want to be.
Well,
Don't want to be.
Rumble's also banned in Brazil for
The same,
it's the same thing. So yeah, if you
same
support free speech, come to Rumble. That's just a fact.
That's it. It just is. And after that, I was like, okay, they've got me on board. I'm a fan, and I would support Rumble over any other platform that's out there. I mean, it's my preferred platform because of that, and they have morals and principles, and I admire that. And they're losing money over it, like Dunkin' Donuts, because of DEI stuff, DEI complaints.
Mhm.
Dunkin' Donuts pulled their ads from Rumble because they were saying that, oh, you have mean people. I'm paraphrasing, but oh, you have mean people on having podcasts on Rumble, and they say mean stuff about people, and we don't want to advertise. Okay, that's fine. In a capitalist society, that's fine. You can advertise where you want, but you know, like, do you understand, Dunkin' Donuts, who your buying base is? Because it isn't the leftist elites that are going to Starbucks. It's the everyday working man that tends to be conservative, that watches Rumble, that buys Dunkin'. So it's like, hello, morons. Like you're actually like you're losing advertising eyeballs to your base buyer. Like, do you know who goes into your store? Like,
it's just like, you know, when Bud Light, when Bud, they decided to promote their brand with the dude cosplaying as a woman, and they were just amazed that backfired so spectacularly.
Right.
So is what it is.
That's exactly it. Because
that's all I've got for you.
It's a certain clientele that goes to Starbucks. We all know this, and a certain clientele that goes to Dunkin'. And not to say that it doesn't cross out, you know, there's tons of people that go into each business, but when you look at the two coffee brands, there's one theme over here and another theme over here, and Dunkin' being like, I don't want to advertise on Rumble because they have mean people like Steven Crowder
or Manila Chan, who's a Russian propagandist, or Ted Rall.
She's the worst.
Super propagandist. I'm undercover. I'm an undercover one because I'm Asian.
Yeah.
Not knowing that theoretically my family could come from the far east of Russia. Maybe they're from Yakuts. Could be. Don't know. But anyway, that's it. I'm glad we got that read in there. We're still, guys, everybody, we're still trying to figure out how the Rumble Studio stuff works and figuring out how
kind of figured it out.
Ad reads. No, Ted, there's technical stuff that you have not been made privy to.
Oh.
So yeah, there's.
Okay.
I can go over that with y'all later. It's easy. Listen, if an inbred redneck like me can do this, that whose family tree does not fork, y'all have no problems at all being the sophisticated people that y'all are.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
sophisticated coastals, the coastal elites. So that'll do it. All right. Thank you, Robbie. Okay, let's say goodbye. That's going to do it for Ted and I. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. This is the TMI Show, Ted Manila Information Show. We Audi 5000, says Generation X. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern.
What are we doing tomorrow? Do we have a guest? I forgot.
I don't know.
Whatever. Figure it out. Okay.
I don't know.
Bye, everyone.
Adios, amigos. Bye.
Oh.
Thank you.
Scott Stantis and I, live DMZ podcast, 12 noon Eastern today in 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. Go check out DMZ, the DMZ. God, I'm screwing this up. DMZ America.
That's it.
12 noon.
Okay. Cool.
Adios, amigos.
Bye.
Bye.